Windhorst said on Get Up this morning that Giannis has some level of interest in playing with Anthony Edwards. And this is interesting for a couple different reasons. Number one, here's what I know, Tom. Minnesota, they made an offer to Milwaukee last summer for Giannis, and Milwaukee had no interest in that. But what Minnesota's hoping for in this whole saga is that Giannis says Minnesota or nobody else. Minnesota or nothing. I'll just wait till free agency. And then in that case, Milwaukee, maybe they give Giannis what he wants. And so I don't, like, Minnesota doesn't have the most assets on paper to put in a deal for Giannis. They have pick swaps in 28 and 32, so what? They have Rob Dillingham, who has looked like a bust so far, and Terrence Shannon, who's a good young player, but not like a big haul, and Johan Berenger, who's shown flashes as an athletic center, but he's very, very raw. And then they have Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Julius Randle. McDaniels or Reid, McDaniels is 25, Naz is 26. They might be guys Milwaukee would want, but they're not a haul. Gobert, he got 5 first-round picks when Utah traded him. He's still an elite center. Julius Randle, still an all-star caliber player despite flaws. And so maybe Minnesota wouldn't want Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert or Naz Reid or Jaden McDaniels, but maybe they would want what those players could get in a three-way scenario. And so that's what I think if Minnesota is involved with Giannis now. I don't think it's a straight-up Minnesota-Milwaukee deal. I think it would have to be a complicated 3 or 4-way deal where Gobert gets sent to a center-needy team and Randall gets sent somewhere else, or Naz Reid gets sent somewhere else, and then those picks or assets or young players or whatever the haul is, that gets directed towards the Milwaukee Bucks. I really think that's the only way that Minnesota lands Giannis. With that said, though, Tom, like, let's say the Wolves do get Giannis and they keep Rudy Gobert, who is so important to their team as a defensive player. Of course, they suck on defense without him. They're great with him. Can Gobert and Giannis work? Two, interior players, that throwback style combination. Would you see that as a combination that can contend in today's NBA?
It'd be tough, man, especially if you lose Jaden McDaniels in that deal, because I don't see how else you're going to be able to land Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like, if you are getting Giannis, you're saying sayonara to Jaden McDaniels. There's just no way around it. I don't see how that would happen. But you're right. For Minnesota, there are a lot of questions of fit with Rudy Gobert and Giannis Antetokounmpo. At this stage of their careers, it's not like you can teach an old dog new tricks and say, hey, Giannis, go add yourself a three-point shot, or Rudy Gobert, add a three-point shot. Rudy Gobert is not adding a spacing a skill at this point in his career. It's just not going to happen. So the fit, they would be so hard to score against at the rim, but the point of attack defense suffers tremendously without Jaden McDaniels, and it's hard to ask Anthony Edwards to be a two-way superstar, right? Offensively, of course, he's going to be able to do that, but you can't demand Luka, Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be the point of attack defender in the NBA Finals. It's just not going to happen. That's why Alex Caruso and Lou Dort exist, and Cason Wallace exists for Shai over there in OKC. I would have severe questions about the viability of a Giannis Rudy Gobert front, but to me, I just don't see Giannis demanding to go to Minnesota right now, especially if the Golden State Warriors are involved. You have the opportunity to go play with Stephen Curry and play for the Warriors and be in that situation with Steph.
Tom, here's the thing. Quick pushback. Like, yes, on paper, but Steph is old. Draymond is old. And if those guys decline or fall off, you're already old yourself. That situation could decline pretty quickly with the Warriors. Whereas if you're Giannis and you go with Anthony Edwards, who's not even in the prime of his career yet, you could be contending and take a back seat to him as you continue aging for the next 8 to 10 years. And so I think that's where, like, I look at it on the surface, I was like, yes, Golden State makes all the sense in the world. They can contend immediately. And yes, that does make a lot of sense. But so does pairing up with Anthony Edwards, who gets better every single year. This guy adds new layers to his game. And so I just think that Giannis combination would be pretty beautiful on the court. The question would be that front court aspect with Gobert and Giannis, if Minnesota could even pull that off. And I think I don't think Randall and McDaniels is enough value. I don't think you're going to get enough. I think it would have to be Rudy Gobert. I think Gobert is the most valuable piece of Randall, Naz Reid, McDaniels, that whole group. And if you're flipping Gobert, you need to get a center back. So like you send him to Chicago maybe, or Boston, Simons and a pile of picks, the Lakers, distant future picks. The Pacers seem like they're in on every single center right now, Okongwu types mostly, but maybe they'd be in on Gobert and set up for next year with Holly and Gobert. But ultimately, Tom, who's the center? Well, what if they got Giannis and Miles Turner? What if that's actually the way to approach it if it's Minnesota, where you're giving up Randall and Gobert and Reed and Conley, like a really massive trade.
And you're just blowing it up around Ant. Yeah. You're like, really, this has run its course.
Yes.
Let's really retool around Ant. And the first iteration was it did us a great job in getting us to the Western Conference at the upper echelon. Absolutely. But we want to win a title. We need to get Giannis and a center, Miles Turner, to space the floor. Miles Turner went to the NBA Finals, of course, with Tyrese Halliburton, and with Anthony Edwards, it makes it a lot more viable that he can be like a number 3, number 4 option. As it currently stands in Milwaukee, I think Miles Turner is way in over his skis.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the talent in Minnesota, it's much better suited for Miles Turner. And look, it is a really solid core there in Minnesota, but you can see the ceiling, right? You can see the ceiling, and getting Giannis would be bursting through that ceiling and saying, we are going to swing again for the fences. It's just, until I see the trade demand to Minnesota, I won't believe it. That it's truly he is wanting to play in Minnesota. In the Western Conference, I just imagine that for Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the Western Conference, I think you would want something where you can win now. And know the pieces around you. The culture in Golden State, Steph Curry and Draymond are deep into their 30s, but at least there's a culture there, an organizational championship culture. You would have to basically build that from scratch over there in Minnesota.
Back-to-back Western Conference Finals, Tom. I mean, they've had some success. Tim Conley built up Denver as well. He's built up Minnesota. You don't have it until you have it. And for Giannis, it'd be intriguing. It'd be very intriguing. I see the appeal in playing in Minnesota. And I think initially when I first heard that last summer, I was like, well, of course they're going to make an offer for Giannis, but they don't have anywhere near enough. There's no way they could pull it off. But there's always ways to get creative. And that's why I think like any trade you think up involving Minnesota, it's going to be a big one, like a pretty elaborate, involved trade, unlike with Golden State where it's those two teams can trade together. Well, I don't think it needs to be overly complicated, but you can add more if you need to.
Anthony Edwards, I mean, where would he rank in terms of co-pilots, like for Giannis? I mean, he if he's looking at the chessboard right now and he's saying, who is the guy that I want to pair up with to win a title, and also give me the things emotionally or legacy-wise that I want right now at my age. Anthony Edwards, as you point out, is a really compelling piece. Is Amen Thompson that guy? I don't think so.
No.
Is Alperen Şengün that guy? I don't think so.
No.
So Houston, I think, doesn't have the same kind of draw. The question is, what does Giannis Antetokounmpo think about Victor Wembanyama? What does he think about that? Because you could talk yourself into Giannis and Vic are the new Tim Duncan and David Robinson for San Antonio as the Twin Towers, these two guys who are going to just terrorize opponents and be able to do these things that we haven't seen on a basketball court. You have Giannis and Wemby in the same front court, which would be insane. It would be unreal to watch. And you have a big Vic as a spacing big who can play outside and in. So it's not the same thing as Rudy Gobert or any questions there. And I think if you're going to tie yourself to another young star who's already got the bona fides, I know that as a franchise guy, I think it's Big Vic is number one, and Anthony Edwards in terms of viable places. It'd be tough for you to beat Anthony Edwards. I don't think the Lakers are involved. I think they don't have the assets to get.
And Tom, with the Lakers, not only that, I mean, Luka Giannis fit, I'm not quite sure that's going to work necessarily. Luka is too on ball heavy. Giannis is too on ball heavy. I would hate that fit. Like, especially if I'm Giannis looking at that. Absolutely, to your point, Anthony Edwards has much greater appeal. He's an elite shooter. He's a willing mover without the ball. Sometimes he is even better off the ball willingly. It's not like he's a selfish on-ball guy. He can do those things, but he can do both. That's the appeal of Ant, to your point. But I do think, like, you're right. He's the number one guy. If you're Giannis looking at the chessboard saying, I'd want to pair up with him. And Steph is up there too, despite his age, obviously. Like, I think it would be really amazing